a seat, sip some wisdom, and stay a while. This is the Prosperity Lounge, where growth gets personal. Step inside, we're breaking chains.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Prosperity Lounge, where hope meets freedom and growth gets personal. I'm Joey Ruffalo, best-selling author, financial coach, and business growth strategist. And more than anything, I'm someone who believes that prosperity isn't just about your wallet. It's about purpose, peace, and your presence. There's that word, presence. It's going to weigh heavy tonight. This episode, I'm so happy to announce this episode is brought to you by our friends at Baked by Grace. You may remember Gracie from our first big interview we did with her about a month or so ago. You can check them out at bakingbygrace.com, bakingbygrace.com, and find out where they're going to be. They're going to be at Union County Farmers Market this Saturday. It seems like they're there every Saturday, so you want to check them out. And every Thursday, they're at the Hardin Valley Farmers Market. It's a brand new farmers market. It's spectacular. Get there, check it out. It's a lot of fun. And yeah, their cookies are amazing. Their baked goods are amazing. And they're just amazing people. So go check them out. Go support them. Thank you for sponsoring this episode. Love you guys. Appreciate you. And yeah, check them out. bakingbygrace.com. So each week we dive into practical conversations around money, mindset, business, wellness, leadership, community. We run the gamut of everything. So we love it. If you're ready to take a step forward in life of clarity and intentional growth, pull up a seat. You're in the right place. Now, before we dive into today's episode, I want to take a moment to thank last week's guest, Kent Morrell. Kent is a man, if you've listened to the episode, he's walked through, and I wrote it down so I didn't forget, 6,821 days of pain, and came out on the other side with a new purpose. We talked about perseverance, redefining healing, and how choosing to fight for something bigger than yourself can transform not just your body, but your life. And in fact, we actually got to the part where he was just about to talk about his transformation and we ran out of time. So guess what, guys? Next week, he's coming back for part 2, him and his wife, Jennifer. We're going to talk about what's on the other side of that pain. We're going to have so if you got questions, there were a lot of good comments in the chat about it. Come on over, and we look forward to having you next week and talking about that. All right. If you missed any episodes, you can always go back and check us out on YouTube. We're here live, winging it apparently a lot of times. You think we'd be professional, Kim?
I like winging it.
Yeah, I do too. And you can check us out at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio. Everywhere you listen to your podcast, we're there at the Prosperity Lounge. And, of course, we're here live every week from 6 to 7. You can check us out and join the live stream, join the chat, have some fun with us. Yeah. So, again, Kent's going to be back next week, finish part 2. But I really want to talk about today's episode. Now, today's guest is someone who lives out the idea of service every single day. My guest today is Kim Frazier. She's currently serving as vice chair of the Knox County Commission. She's a wife, a mom, a former nonprofit and HR leader, and above all, a community first champion with a deep passion for people and purpose. Yeah. But as Kim says, her story doesn't start with a title, it starts at home. Kim, welcome to the lounge.
Thanks for having me, Joey. It's such a privilege to be here.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you coming by and hanging out and pulling up a chair with us.
Absolutely. I love having these kind of talks. This is the best kind of conversation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love it. It. Let's talk a little bit about your beginning.
Sure.
Now, we had a conversation.
We did. Mm-hmm.
And I tell people I always have a conversation with somebody before we go on the show. Mm-hmm. Just kind of learn a little bit more about them, see what it's about. It really helps people feel comfortable with the conversation,
Absolutely.
how we're gonna go.
Yeah.
So we had that
Yeah.
privilege of having that, and I bring people into that conversation during the show a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about your childhood
Yes.
at length.
Yes.
And one of the comments and one of the quotes I pulled out of that was, everyone deserves, but few get to experience, is how you described your childhood.
That's right. You know, you started off with saying that my purpose and my purpose in life really did start at home. And I tell people a lot, I had the childhood that everyone deserves, but very few people get the opportunity to experience. And it was growing up with, you know, two really devout Christian parents, hardworking. Neither had a college degree. They started working right out of high school. And they really instilled in my sister and I from a very early age, by growing up on a fourth generation 120-acre farm, that you really do live your life in community, and it starts with family. And I mean, from the time that I can remember, you know, we had folks that would stop by and they would fill up their water jugs with our well water, or they would get some of the blue eggs that our chickens would lay, or we had kindergarten and preschool classes coming and just coming out to see a chicken or a cow. So, you know, all of that to say, you know, I had aunts and uncles and my grandparents right next door. I was out the door when the sun came up, just living the best life, truly, with family and friends and fellowshipping. And I really did learn to value community at such an early age. You know, my parents, they taught us to always put your faith first, whatever that looks like for you. And if you do that, things will work out, which I live that out, or try to live that out every day. Work hard for what you need and what you want.
That's important.
It's very important. And from the time that, you know, we could walk, we were helping. We were helping our family. We were helping friends. We were taught that should be just a natural component of your daily life, is helping and serving others in some way. And then, you know, they always taught us to kind of learn what your gifts and your talents are, and then figure out a way to use those to take care of your family, to earn a living, but also to serve others. How can you use your gifts to always serve others? And then the thing that I truly believe to this day, and I didn't realize it until I was grown and looking back, it was my parents were always present. They were always present, whether that meant at the dinner table, or at one of my sisters or one of our events, or if it was just having a conversation. They were just always present. They made me feel seen and heard, even if, you know, we weren't agreeing. They taught me at an early age that, you know, you show up. You engage. You show up. You step up. If you see a need, if you see a problem, don't sit back. Step up. You know, use your voice. And that's how I try to live my life. And so to say that it started at home, it really started at home for me. And my parents just wanted my sister and I to have a great life. And that is what I want for everyone.
I love that.
Yeah.
You talked about your parents. I actually wrote down the question here because we talked about this. You had mentioned your parents were, I wrote, the king and queen of presents.
They really were. And they were the parents that, even some of my friends who, again, if their parents couldn't be there, we would go and pick them up. You know, they were the stand-in parents. Everyone loved to come to my house. My dad would take us, you know, to get ice cream. And again, it goes back to exactly what we started off with, is that it is not lost on me, the experience that I had with two parents who were just always willing to show up for not only me, but my friends and our family.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask
So
you
important.
how that presence shaped your parenting style, but also your leadership style today.
Well, I think it taught me that one thing really important about being present is one thing that we can all do is give of our time and give people our undivided attention and to show up. That doesn't cost us anything. And a lot of times when you show up and you are present and you're giving people freely your time and your attention, it shows that you care.
Sure.
It just shows that you care without even having all the answers.
Yes.
But it tells people their value and their worth. My father-in-law, he was a principal at Farragut Intermediate up until his very untimely death. But many, many, many years ago, one thing he said to me was that children know their worth to you by the way that you greet them when they walk into a room. And he just said it so easily, but it was profound, and he didn't even realize it, because in that moment I thought, that's absolutely true, but it's true for adults as well. And that was one thing, my parents did, and now I try to do in any role that I serve, whether it's a volunteer or being a wife or being a parent or being an elected official, is that I want people to know that I value them. And I want communities to know that I value them. And that it's so easy to do by just showing up and just listening and be present. I tell people my table is wide and long and there's a place for everyone. Doesn't mean we're always going to agree. But just by being present, I not only show that I care, I'm also learning. I'm gaining information. I'm gaining knowledge. I'm gaining a different perspective that maybe I did not come into the conversation with. And to me, that's just as important. And I try to do that as well. And so that really does define the way that I hope that I lead, is just being present. People say all the time, I couldn't get in touch with this person or this person, but I got in touch with you and you showed up. I'm like, well, that's great. That's how I want to live my life. Is just, we always wonder about what will people say about you when you're gone, and I can only hope that they felt valued in some way. So it has really shaped who I am and what I do, both professionally and personally.
I love that. And going back to the intermediate school and the grammar school stuff, I've seen some videos recently, and they're all over online, where teachers who greet their kids every morning with either a high five or a hug or a fist bump or something.
I love those videos.
They do it, and they choose, and the kids are so happy. And when they end the day, it's kind of the same thing, and they're just so happy that, because honestly, when you're talking about how people show up and greet, that might be the only interaction they have with somebody that's positive that day. And if you're having that positive influence and impact on somebody, they at least have something positive to take away from that day.
Absolutely.
That's really going to drive them the next day, the next day, the next day.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And that's why I love our teachers. They have such a hard job, and they wear so many hats. And a lot of times I will say to some of my teacher friends, I hope that there's someone in your circle that pours into your spirit. I like to say that we have emotional bank accounts. And, I will ask people that know me by saying that, has anyone made an emotional deposit today? Like, I see you working and serving others and helping others and really just, grinding it out. But who is making those deposits into your emotional bank account? And so it's one of those things where sometimes you get more than, or you give more than you get, or get more than you give, and it goes back and forth. And it's important to really pour into other people, and you'll get it back.
And I
want
to go back to something you said too about being remembered and things that you do while you're here. And I heard this thing. Apparently, it's been around for a bit. But I didn't hear it until my dad passed away, and somebody read it at his funeral. And it's just this concept or this thing around the dash. Have you heard this?
I haven't.
So the gist of it is, when you look at somebody's gravestone, you see their death date and their born date,
yeah.
but there's a dash in the middle. And it's what
Yeah.
you do with that dash that really matters and counts. And what are you doing with your dash?
Yep.
And when you talk about, am I going to be remembered? Am I pouring into people? Are people going to take what I'm doing? What am I doing with my time here?
Right.
And how do I choose
Right.
to serve people? And how am I choosing to lead my life, either by example?
Yes.
Am I getting out in front and leading people? Am I following people? Which everything is fine. But are you doing something with your life that is
Right.
meaningful and purposeful?
Right.
And that's what you
It's so
reminded me of that
important.
when you said that.
Yeah. And I just want people to know that, or I hope to just love others well.
Mm-hmm.
In anything that I do, I just hope that they feel like I've served them well in some aspect. And again,
Yeah.
that goes back to just even being a daughter and a sister and a wife and a mother, and then professionally, serving the people.
Yeah.
Because I represent 500,000 people. I know I can't make everyone feel that way, but those that I come in contact with and have relationships with or reach out to me, at least if I can't find an answer or solution for them, I at least hope that they feel heard and seen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you're talking about community and giving.
Mm-hmm.
And another just thing that came to my head when we were talking about this, I'm like filing these things away as we're talking.
Yeah.
I'm like, make sure I bring this up. This concept of your cup runneth over kind of concept, right? You fill up your cup, you make sure yourself and your family are taken care of, but we
Right.
always pour a little bit extra out for people in the community and people around us.
Yes.
And that's expected of us in faith and people who practice Christianity and people who are
Yes.
Judaism. Judaism is called I'm not even going to pronounce it, some sort of cup of how, I apologize, I don't know the name of it, but it's pretty famous in the Jewish religion. It's this cup, they pour it in, they do it in their ceremonies, and they pour extra. And it's the
Yeah.
wine that pours around, and
Yeah.
that's what you give to others, because you're always supposed to give more.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people in my circle, they love to give, but they're not taking care of themselves first.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
they get burnt out, and they're unable to give of themselves fully to others because
Right.
they haven't taken care of themselves.
Right.
So being at home and taking care of one's house and taking care of oneself to a point where now I have extra to give to others, and pouring that out is, I don't want to say magical, but it's important.
But it is important, and I think every person has to find what that is
Yeah.
for them. For me, it's every morning having that quiet time,
Yes.
just doing self-reflection, digging into scripture. And then sometimes it'll hit me, and I'll just share that with someone that it reminds me or comes to mind when I'm reading in that. And sometimes to me, that's just little nuggets of affirmation.
Yeah.
Like I was reading something the other morning, and it just resonated with me, and I thought, oh, I've got to send this to this person who was just elevated into a position of authority within the organization, and they had shared with me they just didn't know if they were equipped to do it. But we all knew that they had the heart to do it. And so I just sent what I was reading and feeling, and they responded back and said, you had no idea how much I needed to hear that. And I think it's being intentional. A lot of times I will talk about even with policy, even in the way that maybe like the county is growing. I use the word intentional a lot because I think we've lost the art of being intentional. One thing that I'm really working on for this year is having intentional gratitude, meaning say I'm thinking about you, say I appreciated that more than you know, or just really verbalizing gratitude. And I think that we've lost the art of having intentional conversations,
Yes.
whereas there's very much this push and pull and this feel of if you're not with me, then you're against me.
There's a lot
if you're
of
not,
shouting going on nowadays.
yeah,
Not a lot of conversation.
yeah, and
Who screams the loudest wins.
Right. And you learn more by listening. And good leaders to me, they before they lead, they listen.
Yeah.
Before you lead, you listen. And that's key to also being present. It goes back to what I said about, yes, by being present, you are showing people you value them and you care. You're also learning and gaining information and hopefully being more informed. It all kind of just comes together with this intentionality and pausing to maybe, again, self-reflect and say, could I be more intentional with this person or this situation or this initiative or this effort? And I just really think it's important that we all remember that by being intentional, again, you might have a hard conversation, but in doing that, you have to be able to walk out of it still with a level of respect and dignity and grace, and go on to the next thing.
One of the takeaways I had from a conversation a few weeks ago with her name is Adeline Walker, and she's 20 years old, and she's the regimental commander at Virginia Tech.
Wow.
Leading 1,400 cadets.
That's a big responsibility.
And we talked about pride, fortitude, transparency, and mentorship in leadership. And that transparency and that pride and fortitude are kind of what you're talking about, and the mentorship even.
Yeah.
When you're providing tools to somebody that you feel is they don't feel they're equipped.
Right.
But they're equipped. So providing tools to them and mentoring them in that regard, and being a leader in mentorship, and being transparent in your intentionality of things,
right?
And having the pride and the fortitude to keep your decisions like how you have them, but also move forward with that and have the fortitude to stick up for the decisions you're making.
Sure.
And it sounds like you have all four of those, Kim.
Well, I appreciate you saying that and having that level of confidence. But I think I gained my greatest perspective from knowing that, Jesus didn't feel equipped either. When he set down the path to becoming really the Savior of the world, he didn't have all the answers. He felt really inexperienced, ill-equipped, unsure, insecure. I mean, all of those things. And so you just have to take a deep breath sometimes and think, at some point in that journey to the cross, he had to feel this way. Oh. He had to feel this way. And so you have to allow yourself to feel that way sometimes, and not beat yourself up about it. Gosh. I mean, we make really bad, little gods. We do. We like to beat ourselves up or justify actions. And sometimes I just wish, we had more time and more people to just say, you know what, I made a mistake, or I shouldn't have said that, or I could have done that a little bit differently, and I'm sorry, and move on. So it's just, again, knowing your strengths, knowing your weaknesses, admitting when you're wrong, and using what God has given us to bless others.
I was going to say, what's that word? You said wrong? I've never heard that word before.
Oh, never? Oh. Never. I'm wrong every day. Let me just say, multiple times a day. But you just got to admit it, and you have to own it and move on. And I personally respect people a whole lot more when they kind of own some things.
Yeah, and I think the big takeaway from being wrong is, do you learn from that experience and grow from it, or if you don't, you're never gonna move on.
No.
But if you grow from it, it's okay to be wrong.
Right.
We're always wrong. It was funny. I told somebody the other day. They asked me, what was the biggest thing I learned this year in business and doing all this stuff? And I said, jokingly, I said, and I think it's kind of true, I know it all, but I can't do it all. And that was my biggest takeaway, because I used to know it all and try to do it all and
Right.
not get everything done.
Ah,
But I know it all. I just can't do
Yes.
it all. But I know enough to hire somebody or bring somebody around that knows how to do it.
right.
And,
Yeah.
and can bring my vision to light.
Yes. And that's something else, you and I talked about. Is that sometimes I will struggle with, and I've struggled with this my entire life. I find so many different topics and professions so interesting. I love so many different things, and I'm not great at one specific thing. I'm just kind of good at a lot, and I always struggled with that, and like even deciding what I wanted to be when I grew up. I struggled with that because I thought I can do this, or I would love to do this, or this would be interesting to me. And it wasn't until I fell and hit my head and decided to run for office that I realized that struggle for so many years, personally and professionally, had prepared me to jump into public office, because I understood so many different perspectives and groups of people and communities and issues.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like a light bulb really went off and went, aha, that's why. Thanks,
Yeah.
God. You have a real sense of humor. But that's why, because I really could relate to so many different walks of life. And it's really served me well.
Well, that's a great transition, because it brings me to my next line of questioning
What is
for
that?
you, Kim, and that's talking about you didn't set out to run for office.
No.
In fact, you were
No.
happy being the person supporting from the sidelines, like you said to me.
Yes.
But something happened, a moment in your kid's school lunchroom that
Yeah.
changed everything.
It
Can you
did.
tell us a little bit about that moment and what shifted your path?
Absolutely. My story is very much like most, that I realized I wasn't paying attention until something impacted me or my family or someone that I love. And it was when my kids were in elementary school. I was volunteering a lot, helping in the classroom, and I was there one day, and they simply said, hey, can you eat lunch with the boys in their classroom? We're having to add lunch times to the schedule. And I said, well, why is that? And they said, well, we've reached capacity. And so we're having to add more lunch times so that we can reduce the number of students in the cafeteria. And I said, okay, well, when's my kindergartner going to eat lunch? And they said, we're looking at around 10:40. I thought, okay, it's a 5-year-old. They're going to eat lunch at 10:40. And it just started me down a path of asking questions.
Mm-hmm.
I was asking teachers. I asked the principals. Then I asked, my school board rep. And then I reached out to folks in the county. And then that led me to an introduction to someone who was at the planning commission. He was actually the director of the planning commission. And then they sent me to engineering and public works. And then they sent me to director of
Wow.
constituent services. And so I just started asking all these questions, especially like, how did we get here? And are we looking at how we grow, and are we planning for growth? Because it had then impacted my kids. And I learned after a lot of just kind of digging in and asking the questions and reading. I did a lot of reading just about local processes and laws and statutes all the way up to the state level. And it made me realize that local government impacts my family and my community in big ways and small ways and ways I did not even realize. And I had just not been paying attention. And so through that, I just formed relationships and kept and maintained those relationships. And as my kids went through elementary school and I started looking at feeder patterns of different schools, I realized that we lived in one of the fastest growing areas in all of Knox County, and there was no plan to build a middle school. So my children were having to go out of their community for middle school and then come back to their community for high school. And so
Wow.
that started another conversation with like-minded parents and people living in the same community. Like, well, I wonder what we can do. Well, I'd had so many of those conversations and built those relationships. I kind of knew what we needed to do, but there were a lot of hoops to jump through. And at the end of the day, funding was a huge issue. And so it was really advocating and becoming a champion for not only my kids, but the people in my community, and then also learning about another community across the county in the Gibbs area who were experiencing some of the same things, and their children were on buses for an hour and 12 hour and 15 minutes because they did not have a middle school in their community. Wow. And so then we just kind of formed kind of an advocacy group to advocate for that. And I learned even more. I started speaking at a lot of school board meetings and speaking before planning commission and county commission. And then from that experience, we were able to work with our local government and legislators to get 2 schools built. So, it was a full circle moment when my youngest son got to attend the middle school that I had advocated for his 8th grade year. He was the first 8th grade class. Wow. In that middle school. So that was really, really cool. And then from that, it was really interesting because several community leaders and department heads from Knox County government kind of reached out to me and said, we need you to do exactly what you did for your advocacy work with the schools, but on a bigger scope, like with communities and growth and development and how it impacts people's quality of life. And I was like, well, that's kind of a lot to chew on. Sure. That's a lot to chew on. So from that, I really kind of started again reaching out to those contacts and relationships that I had made along the way in other parts of the county. And we just started talking about what does it look like to have intentional growth with coordinated infrastructure, and the county being pretty far behind on supportive infrastructure. And that's when we formed several of the planning advocacy groups. And it was through that work that, I was going out into communities and subdivisions and small groups and just sharing with them what I had experienced through the local government processes and how I saw citizens could get involved, how you could use your voice, how you could advocate and champion for something that your community was passionate about, or maybe it was a need in your community, maybe it was a program or a service or some sort of initiative, but really just helping people understand the local government process, and this is how you can get involved.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it was really through that for many, many years, people kept saying, you should run for office. And I would go,
oh boy.
I just didn't see myself, kind of on the field again. Yeah. Like you said, I was really happy being on the sideline and helping other people and sharing experiences. I mean, that's really what I've always been just kind of good at. Yeah. I didn't see myself in that role at all.
But you had said about attending I wrote it down here, so make sure, over 100 meetings.
I did.
As a citizen before deciding to run.
I did. Yes, sir.
What did showing up teach you that campaignings did not or could not?
Well, for me, stepping into a campaign was very organic and very natural because I had already been showing up. I tell people, I've been showing up when it was about people and community and not a campaign or an election. Mm-hmm. I've been present. I've been communicating and connecting people and actually, addressing legislators on certain issues and topics and initiatives. And so it was really, really easy for me. I hate to even say that because some people want to, really like punch me in the face when I say I had a great time campaigning, because it was just connecting with people
Yeah,
I already had
absolutely.
relationships with.
Yeah.
And, along the way through those years, so many people had said, well, you should run for office. And I would say, no, thank you. But, I'll still keep doing the work. I'm still going to keep showing up. And then when I decided to do it, they would say, well, if you change your mind, let me know.
I love that one.
Yeah, when you change your mind. And so when I did change my mind, it was very authentic and natural just to reach out to those people and say,
changed my
okay,
mind.
are you in? Here we go. And again, like I said, we really had a lot of fun. And it was just kind of like just reconnecting with all of those people that I had already spent time with and built relationships with. And that's still what I absolutely love about this job.
Yeah.
I love it.
And that transitions into the next thing perfectly here about community building. We're on the same page.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
talked about the nuts and bolts of a thriving community, and you've been vocal about things like infrastructure, not just
Yes.
roads and buildings, but schools,
Yes.
emergency services, housing, student opportunities. Let's talk about not infrastructure from a policy point of view, because I want to try to avoid policy talk, but
Sure.
infrastructure is more of a community infrastructure.
Yes.
And connecting community, like you just
Yes.
were talking about. What's one part of community building you think people underestimate?
Oh, wow. That is a great question.
Pulitzer right here.
Yeah, I know it.
Moral
So
award.
typically, we do hear a lot. We are way behind with supportive infrastructure. And when people think about infrastructure, they think about typically roads, schools, and utilities. They don't think about, your transportation network, your recreational areas, your places of worship, libraries, public buildings, supportive services and programs. I mean, it's so multi-layered. And when you think about infrastructure, like you said, it's everything that from the time you wake up in the morning until the time you come home to your family and you're having dinner, all of the things that have impacted you during the day. Meaning, when you wake up in the morning and you turn off your alarm, you needed that power and utilities, right? So you get up. What's the first thing you do when you get out of bed? You're either going to the restroom or you're brushing your teeth. Water, sewage,
Checking your phone.
checking your phone. Again, you've got to have the
Yeah. Gotta have the-
broadband and
gotta be
services, and then you're going downstairs and you're making breakfast. You've got to have groceries and food, and then what do? You get in your car. Well, you've got to have a tag on your car, right? You've got to have fuel in your vehicle. It's got to be registered. Do you have insurance? Then you get in your car and
a
your
lot of stuff we don't
roads.
think about.
Things you don't think about. Yeah, roads. And then you're going somewhere. You're usually going to work or school or a place of recreation, or maybe you're going to a restaurant. It's all of that, all the things that touches a person's daily life is considered a part of infrastructure and community.
Sure.
And it's really about looking at within those communities, where are those gaps? Where are those gaps, and
Yeah.
how can we meet those needs?
And that's true for organizational community building as well.
It is.
When you're talking about going to a lot of these meetings, but also starting these organizations and being a part of them and leading and out front, it can't just be you doing it.
No.
You have to have people around you. Like when I said, I learned that I know it all, but I can't do it all.
Yes.
And getting people around you can help you do it.
Yes.
It's that kind of community building as well. Like in that sense, when you're putting something together, that's you're passionate about.
Yes.
What goes into building that type of community?
First, it's already building relationships and asking questions and reaching out and taking that step, taking the initiative. Initiative is huge. If you just sit back and wait for someone else to ask the question or do the thing, you could be waiting a long time. And so for me, it's in my nature to just step up and start talking to people and asking questions. How do you feel about this? Or what do you think about this? Or what can we do? What can't we control? And really kind of laying that all out and saying, so what's the end goal? How do we want to get there? What does that look like? Who's best at doing what? Assigning kind of a role and skills. And, it's almost like building a team. When you're building community, you're bringing people together. You're trying to make everyone's life better in some way. And it's really just team building. And I find that in every community that I go out to and I have these conversations, I say a lot that, for me, having those perspectives that I mentioned earlier, when you go out, you realize that every community has a different need or vision for their area, which oftentimes has a different expectation or requirement of their local government. And so knowing that, I think for many, many years, we've really had kind of a one-size-fits-all. And I think now with more community-minded leaders, which I'm really trying to bring that to the table, being more community-minded, meaning exactly what I just described, that different parts of a county or an area, they have different needs. Their communities are different. They look different. They feel different. They have different expectations. They have different visions for growth in their community or how they want their community to function. And I think we have to be intentional and listen and then realize that we've got to approach this differently. Like we've got to be able to appreciate and value the vision and the expectations of that community as well as this community or another community and not really try to just push it all into one box.
Yeah. Well, one of the communities we had talked about, and it seems to be central now, is accessibility issues in ADA compliance. It's getting to be a little bit more in the forefront of things.
It really is.
How can families... Here, it's a two-parter. What can you do in your role on commission, help with that issue?
Right.
What is the scope? But what can families do to start advocating for that issue? What kind of recommendation do you give us as someone who started in advocacy? What kind of tips can you give for somebody who needs to want to get into in that space of advocating for something that they believe in?
Well, again, it's using your voice, having the initiative to step up and ask the questions and seek resources. Figure out who you need to talk to and then talk to 5 more people. I tell people when I started trying to take my advocacy work and turn it into policy, I would ask for a meeting and meet with anyone that would take a meeting with me. And that, again, served me well. And it goes back to showing up, being present, actively listening, and then doing something about it. And that's what I would tell anyone. If you have a question, if you have a need, if you have a passion, don't just be still. Move. Step out of your comfort zone. I tell people that a lot of this felt like sandpaper to me. But I knew that if I didn't step up, it could be a long time before someone did. And you absolutely, through those just really authentic efforts, can turn a need or an expectation into a lasting change. Just small efforts can leave big changes, and that's what I have found. We were able to, from a citizen perspective, initiate some changes in the way we looked at growth and development in the county. And that was just from advocacy work. And so then we saw where the county needed to put this into practice. And that was really for me when I said, okay, I've done all that I can on this side of things. I need to take another step outside of my comfort zone into a space that I felt like I didn't belong and wasn't equipped to be in. But I knew the people and I knew the issues really, really well, and I needed to be on that side of things. And that's what I would encourage everyone to do. Take things as far as you can take them with the resources and the skills that you have, and then push it a little bit further, whatever that looks like.
Now, for someone who is listening, they want to get off the couch and help, but they just don't see themselves as a leader. What do you suggest? Where do they begin?
Well, I like to tell people, you got out of bed this morning and you hopefully made your bed and you did something. You've already accomplished something. Just build on that. Start small. And I tell people this a lot. I'm like, let's be grateful. Let's celebrate something small today, and let's just focus on a small win. And then it just kind of builds from that. And you got to believe in yourself. I tell people it only takes one person to believe in you that can actually change the trajectory of someone's life. Find that one person, or be that one person.
That's true.
Be that one person that believes in someone and tells them, hey, you know what? I think you can do this.
That is true. We were talking about the power of change. I mean, I was thinking in my head about, it doesn't necessarily have to be, you could set out to change the world. People go, we got to change the world. If you just start with yourself and then with one other person,
right?
It's a domino effect, right?
It really is.
Build. I had a situation recently where I was struggling with a little bit of, am I doing well? Is my message being heard? Am I helping anybody by doing what I'm doing here on the radio? Am I helping anybody with what I'm trying to do? Because it's been a struggle to kind of get this off the ground and moving forward. It's a kind of a new direction for what I'm trying. And I had somebody reach back out to me and basically write me a letter saying that just by being here and by giving a voice to some people to come on and talk,
right,
I helped change one person.
That's all that matters.
It was so powerful. I framed the letter.
Good. You absolutely should.
It was just so powerful, and it really it gave me that extra fuel in the tank to go like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Just one at a time.
Yeah, and that's what I tell people. Just start small. Breathe in, breathe out. And I love to say left foot, right foot. Left foot, right foot, because that means you're not standing in one place. You're making an effort, and then just tackle something small, and it will honestly give you a lot of confidence, and you'll learn a lot about yourself along the way. I sure have. I mean, I've learned so much about what it feels like to step outside of your comfort zone, but being able to do it because I felt confident and I was prepared to do it. I had done the work. I tell people a lot that I was already I really felt like God just kind of said, I need you to do what you're already doing, but with greater purpose and on a bigger platform.
Sure. Yeah, and you said you're already doing it, but there's that, was it 10,000 hours of something before you become proficient in it?
Right.
And so realize that when you're getting into something like this, that you're not going to change, you're not going to be great day one when you pick up the phone and start making phone calls.
No.
Or pounding the pavement and knocking on doors.
That's right.
You're going to be horrible when someone answers the door and they say, what are you here for? You do door knocking. By the time you get to your fifth or sixth one, you have a little bit better. little bit better.
Yeah.
And then by the time you're done, you're like, man, that was so easy. I want to do it again.
Right. But
But you
people
don't
need to
realize
realize nobody's perfect. You don't have to be perfect. No one's expecting you to be perfect. And I think, right now the world that we live in, people are so glued to their phone, especially our young people. They see constantly on social media and that they've got to look a certain way and be a certain way. And it really drives me crazy. Because
Yeah.
I feel like, just be the best version of yourself and you're winning.
We've talked about that before, comparison being the thief of joy.
Oh, it is.
And people don't understand when you're looking at something on social media, like an Instagram post or Facebook, that's a split-second capture, a moment in time. You don't know about who was screaming at who 5 seconds before they smile, and they smile real fast, or when the camera's done, they're yelling at each other again, but they're, oh my God, this is so perfect. I want all that.
Right. It's I mean, nobody is perfect, and as long as you can accept that, I think that's wisdom that also comes with age a little bit. As I've gotten older, I'm able to embrace every flaw and every weakness, and chalk it up.
I haven't learned all that yet because I'm still very,
you're still a
very,
baby.
very
You're
young.
still very, very young.
Still
Right.
very young. Yes.
Very young. Yeah.
Well, I want to dive into some. This is probably my favorite segment of the show. It's our question and answer segment.
Oh, good.
So we get some questions that come in during the week on Instagram, Facebook, through our community space, theprosperitylounge.com. You can go there, check it out. It's a free community for everybody to come in and talk about whatever they want to talk about: money, business, wellness, whatever. Connect with others that are going through the same thing, and make some connections, answer some questions, and I'll be in there to kind of guide everybody along. We have our new app coming soon, probably within the next month or so. I'll be promoting that. It's going to be even easier to connect and have some fun. But these questions come in, and I got a couple for you, Kim.
Great.
So first one is from Renee.
Mm-hmm.
She wrote, in Kim, what's the hardest part about staying grounded while holding public office, and how do you do it?
Oh, that's such a great question, and it is a struggle every day. And thank you, Renee. Thank you for that question. And as I said, but I was brought up where you put your faith first, and everything else will fall into place. And again, I think it's being disciplined and intentional. So I try to start my day, not every day because I'm not perfect, but I try to start my day with just some quiet time and self-reflection and kind of digging into some scripture. That fills my emotional bank account. And then I kind of feel like when I do step out into the world, the space of local government and being in politics, when that's the first thing you see, hear, or read in the morning, it stays with you. Especially if you're in hard conversations, or if you are entering into a space where especially in the political world, that maybe faith isn't on the forefront of everyone's mind. But for me, just putting it first, and always striving to just be who I say I am by walking it out, I think that always brings me back to that humble space that I never want to lose, in that I'm just a person.
Mm-hmm.
I consider this a way to, I try very hard to be a good steward of this responsibility that people have placed me in. And I think that really keeps me grounded. I mean, I will say to myself in the mirror, you're no big deal. You're just like everyone else. And that it keeps me grounded. And it's hard sometimes. And it's not so hard in not being who I am, who I know that I am, but sometimes just, situations or language or responses can get a little heated or colorful. And it's just trying to remember how I was brought up, how I was raised, and, that is not how I want to respond. And so a lot of times it's just reflecting back on what I read or I prayed about that morning, taking a deep breath, stepping back, and then just hitting that reset button and keep on going.
It's funny you talk about the mirror thing, because I am actually in the mirror saying that I am a big deal, and my wife usually is in the background yelling, "No, you're not."
No, you're not. You're
Keeps me a
not.
little grounded.
No, you're not.
So I probably have time for one more here, and let me find a
Okay.
good one for you. Let's see here. Brian wrote in and said, "You talk a lot about listening and learning. What's a recent conversation that changed your perspective?"
Oh, wow. So I actually just had a conversation. I went out to meet with a group of about 20 plus residents in a neighborhood they were just having issues with stormwater. And I went into it with every work order that the county had provided me and what we had done to mitigate the work there. And immediately I left feeling like, we had this conversation, I've listened, I've taken a lot of notes. There was actually more that I could do. And so it really was just about, I went in to listen and to hear what had been done, what they were experiencing. And that was just as recent as yesterday. Just an hour ago, we were at School Mania handing out 8,000 school bags full of 8,000 bags of school supplies for our students. And again, I felt like I was there doing a service, but really I left feeling like my spirit had been poured into because of all of the energy. These kids were so excited. These parents were so grateful. And it was in that moment of, again, just being present and then listening. People were even blessing us for just providing them with school supplies. So I get that experience almost every day, Brian, every day, just by showing up and listening more than you talk. I walk away with a different perspective.
Yeah.
Every time.
We talked a little bit about whether it was a lot, I can't remember at the beginning of the hour, Kim.
Yeah.
The yelling part of the conversation, when people are yelling, you're not listening, you can't be heard. But having the conversation, listening to people, you can hear them.
Yeah.
And then you could process what it is.
Yeah.
And then move forward with that decision of what you're going to do. And I think that's important. It's that listening part of it.
And that happens every day. And I think that's a characteristic of being a community-minded leader, is listening more. Everybody needs to listen more.
Absolutely. Well, we're almost at the top of the hour.
Oh, wow.
I know, it's amazing. As we wrap up, just want to revisit a few of the key takeaways that we learned from today's episode with Kim Frazier. First one is presence is a gift. Whether it's parenting, public service, or showing up to a town hall meeting, being fully engaged is how change begins.
Yes.
Secondly, leadership doesn't require a title. Sometimes the most impactful work is done in the background until the moment you're called forward. Your story matters. And when it's shared with courage and consistency, it can ripple out further than you know. Every community needs connectors. Whether you're organizing events or connecting neighbors or resources, you are a bigger piece of the plan. You definitely need there.
Yes.
Kim, thank you for your heart, your honesty, and your presence today.
Joey, thank you, because again, this fits into exactly what I'm saying. You are providing people with a space to be seen, heard, and to engage. And so thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
And I know so many people walk away feeling so much more heard and more inspired to serve. And to all of you tuning in, thank you for being a part of the Prosperity Lounge. If this conversation sparks something in you, share it with a friend. Head to theprosperitylounge.com to join our free community, explore resources, and find tools. And find tools like the Prosperity Planner to help you build a life of purpose. Until next time, everybody, stay faithful, stay fearless, and remember, freedom lives where faith and action meet. The lounge is always open, and so is your next breakthrough. This is the Prosperity Lounge.
Pull up a chair. The journey